Hi, thank you so much for your time. I know you've been really busy recording Celebrity Gogglebox at the moment and things. Is everything else on hold at the moment still?
Well, yes, we stopped filming in the middle of a 10-week shoot in the middle of COVID. So we're going to resume that in a few weeks' time. So we're all preparing to get our life back into normal-ish mode. But yeah, I've been busy doing a few other things in the meantime, producing, pitching ideas to TV companies, lots of charity requests, lots of bits and pieces that all of a sudden the free time became very busy.
Yeah, I think that's happened to a lot of us. And how have you coped with the whole homeschooling and having a 15-year-old in the house all of the time?
I've struggled actually because I think, along with a lot of other year 10 parents, that we may be one of the most vulnerable school groups to have been targeted with the coronavirus pandemic. So when we were told that the kids were going to start getting emails with their homework on, I was expecting a lot more. I thought there'd be Zoom classrooms. I thought there'd be a little bit more one-on-one occasionally, but unfortunately, I mean, I'm lucky that I have a fairly bright son who wants to keep up with school to a certain extent, but he'll get away with just about the bare minimum. But because he was asking me a lot of questions about subjects I never took at GCSE, like chemistry, he does all three sciences, and I didn't. I just took physics. Not that I can remember any of it. He has been asking me about mole masses. I mean, it was a minefield. I didn't even know that was a thing. So the time it takes for him to explain to me what he wants help with, I'm doing so much Googling just to keep up with what he's trying to tell me. It becomes, a joke. So I found it really, I struggled with trying to help him. What I could do is keep him to timetables and structures, and what we basically decided between us, because he didn't want to do the school day. I thought it would be a good idea to just try and replicate the school day, but he preferred to try and get through the whole of school and then have a long day after it. So he was managing to he'd get up at 9 and start about 9:30, and he'd finish by 1 o'clock. So he was just sort of going through everything the teachers had set him. What he was doing was giving me a little rundown of what he'd done. I'd ask him, what did you learn in geography today? And he'd give me a little brief overview. But I did have to trust him a lot more than I thought I would, because I couldn't keep on top of it. I just couldn't. I can help with English, I can help with drama, I can help with geography a little bit, math so, but nothing with German. I didn't do German, I didn't do chemistry, I didn't do biology. So there were a lot of subjects where I did wish there was some outreach, online and communal areas where we could all pull together. In hindsight, what I think would have been a great idea is maybe within the school parents group, we could have said who's good at what subject, for us to be able to maybe tap into each other when we were all at the same point trying to homeschool. But I suppose that's hindsight, isn't it?
Sounds like he's done a great job, though, in terms of the being able to do the independent learning. I think a lot of parents that I've spoken to have said that they've really struggled to get their child to do anything. And from what you're saying, he sussed that like really productive bit of the morning. It means he can then.
Yeah, I think maybe the consequences would have been, I think he could foresee the consequences, A, from me, B, from his peer group if he didn't keep up. Because they were, I think I was lucky that the friends that he's close to begrudgingly were like, well, we have to do it, so let's just do it. And actually they have been, a lot of the times when I've thought he's on the phone to his friends, they've been helping each other. And I do think that was a good social element they all picked up themselves. But yeah, you're right. I think I'm fortunate that he had to get up and go to actually do it. What I didn't quite realise is the schools weren't going to penalise kids for not doing their schoolwork. I thought it was you have to do it or there will be some sort of consequence from the school. But as it turns out, not many schools were enforcing that, but for the right reasons, I'm sure, because different homes have got different scenarios. But I'd never told Noah about that.
Excellent planning. I like it. So he is now at the end of year 10, right? Yeah. So what was the thing that you were most nervous about as you started his GCSE journey?
I suppose my biggest fear was the workload, the difference from year 9 to year 10, about all of a sudden having to, compete with the amount of work we know has to be done, not chooses to be done. If you haven't got a certain amount of content, you really can't even attack any exam. And I wish I'd read your book a little bit earlier. However, because of reading your book, I'm now chatting to him about some ideas from your book that we're going to use over the summer holidays to try and catch up with all the year 10 stuff that might give us a head start for the year 11, because I do feel that when we first started the GCSEs, the biggest obstacle was what subjects are you going to choose. They only have a few choices anyway, but within the small choices that they had, we had a lot of discussions with the teachers and himself and just between ourselves, what subjects do you really want to take on? So I think we've put more focus on that than we did on the actual bulk of the work that we were going to take on. I don't know if there's any regrets quite yet. He seems to be okay with doing the 3 sciences. I would have preferred the combined personally. And he is very happy that he's taken drama, much to my dismay. I really didn't want him to take drama, but he wants to, and his teacher thinks he's done the right thing there. So yeah, I think when you say what did we worry about when we took on the beginning of the GCSE year, was I think we thought we'd got through the worst bit by just choosing, but I do understand that the workload was going to be bigger than we expected, and I suppose it has been.
It is a bit of a jump up, yeah. So how are you feeling different now you're a year in? You obviously you've read the book, so hopefully you've got some pointers on how to move forward with things.
Well, I'll tell you what was really interesting. I enjoyed your book so much because it spoke parent to parent, and it was really witty and funny, and you made a lot of our weaknesses feel normalized. I don't know which bracket I put myself in. I'm half pushy parent, half will be fine parent. I'm sure we'll get through it. But what I'm finding really interesting, and we're actually quite excited about trying to find out different, some of the tools that you've given us about how to try mind maps or recordings or the flashcards, which I know a lot of schools have already taught the kids, but they haven't taught the parents. So we sort of just go with what the kids have told us they've been told to at school. But because of your book, I'm now going to try out a few of the methods and see which one of them sits better. I asked Noah day before yesterday which environment he preferred to learn in, because that was another thing. See, for me, I know what I like, and it doesn't always it's not always the same as what he likes. And he does prefer to sit on the sofa with the laptop, no music. He doesn't really, he's not for the TV, the phone, or the music side of it, but he did actually say to me he works better in groups. And because of that, I'm going to try and get in touch with some of the other school mums that he's in a friend group of 5, and me and those mums have a mums club on WhatsApp. So we secretly have a little by the way behind the boys' back. And I think I'm going to be asking some of those mums if we could maybe over the summer holidays do some group revision, because if he says he enjoys working when he's with other people, and I'm going to go and ask him to start revising on his own, kind of defeating the object. So if I know that there's some subjects where he can maybe combine brains, then I'll try that. But yeah, the other thing that I'm really excited about sharing with him, and I'm holding on to it because you've given us all these little nuggets. There's a fear of just going, I've got all these great ideas and this and this and this and this and this, and you've got to try and pace yourself. So I'm holding on to letting him know that, whatever he's done today is better than what he did yesterday, because I think that's a really, really good piece of advice to tell the kids, that they're a little bit further than they were yesterday, even if it's not everything they understand.
Yes. Takes baby steps, but baby steps will still get you there eventually, and it's much less overwhelming that way, which is good. Yeah, the book was designed to be that you can go through it at your own pace as a parent, but I know exactly what you mean about not wanting to go blah, 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 and just brain dump on them. That's why we have a membership that goes through week by week with all the different bits of information, so it's not that temptation for parents.
Ideally, what year group would you suggest your book is aimed for? Is it pre-GCSE ideally?
I'd say the sooner you can read it, the better, in terms of knowing what's coming up. So if they're in year 9 and you're just starting to think about that journey, it's a great time to do it. But if you're about to start year 11 and you're thinking, oh my goodness, my child has missed so much school, where am I going to even begin? That's still a good place to do it, because it's all about making it manageable and making it easy and making it not overwhelming to do the work and to get caught up and stuff. And if you do the little, making the notes and catching up over the summer, then it means certainly when they start year 11 and everything starts ramping up really quickly, they'll be way ahead of where they need to be because they'll have written up their notes.
So do you agree? I mean, I'm taking from what I read. I made notes on your book. Would you believe it? I'm like, oh, I love this, and this was great, and don't forget this. And I really loved some of the examples that the analogies you had for like decorating a room, and how the planning and the organization and the winning at the end, and how we can translate some of this advice into our own world. And what I was thinking was, this is the plan. Whether it's right, you're the one to tell me if it's right or wrong. Because we've only started this book and we're going to start using some of the tools in the book now, at the end of year 10, so to speak. If every day we did 20 minutes of catching up on everything we've covered in year 10, so if we did 20 minutes a day, which meant we were trying to concisely generalize at lessons in all the subjects, then maybe by the end of year 10 summer holidays, would you think we'll have enough?
It sounds like it. I think given if he's managing to get his schoolwork done between 9 and 1, then he's got that concept of, actually, if I focus, I'll get it done, sorted. It's when they sort of focus and kind of watch the TV and like check their phones and they're not really concentrating, and then 20 minutes it's nothing really. So if it's 20 minutes, Have you found our revision plan generator on the website? Because you can click a couple of buttons and it'll create you a plan for every day through the summer holidays. You can, with your probably, I think it should do you one subject a day. It'll take you all the way up to the year 11 exams, I think, at this point. I think that's what we've set up.
Okay.
I'll talk you through that in a minute then. I'll send you some links. But yeah, and that way it's, today we're doing biology, tomorrow we're going to do some German, and that way it's all scheduled out as well. So he's not tempted to just pick his favourite subjects and do a bit extra of those.
I'll tell you another really good thing was, because of course the revision is so important, and that tends to become the overwhelming part for kids in these years. But what I did really enjoy was that you had that quiz in your book about the why, about making kids realise why they have to do GCSEs. And I'm a stepmom to a year 10. I'm a mum to a year 10, and I've got a year 12, unfortunately, waiting for A-level results without taking his A-levels, but now embarking on trying to fill his time with job interviews. He's just got a job after about 4 interview fails, so it was really interesting.
Learning.
Yeah, and it was really good. It was really good. But what I was picking up on was that quiz, the question of why you need to do the GCSEs. It was quite engaging. Again, catching Noah in between his Xbox FIFA games once he's in his free times. Mums are so the most unappealing friends for 15-year-olds, aren't they, at this age? That just getting his attention for 15 to 20 minutes is like a victory. And I happened to just say to him about the jobs, about what if you won the lottery and you didn't need to worry about money, well, what would you fill your time with? And it took a while for him to grasp what it was, because it was quite general, like, I'd learn a hobby, or I'd learn a language, or again, quite generic things which anybody would say. But then when we pinned it down, he's always wanted to be a sports commentator, but he opened up his sort of thinking into going maybe a sports agent, and he knows so much about football and tennis. And so we looked up how much does a sports agent earn. We then looked at what kind of house could that person live in with that income, and all of a sudden it just built a little bit more ambition. But the funny thing is, at the end of it, he said, but I'd still have to do my GCSEs anyway, whether I got that job or not. So there was a kind of, immature angle still in there. But I did think that was a really good starting point to sort of push the boredom, I suppose, of having to think about exams.
But yeah, because it's just when you start thinking about it and you start realizing how much work there is to do, it just suddenly becomes this huge thing, and your brain goes, no, let's just do something different. So yeah, it's scary how few teenagers are able to think into the future and think past, because you don't know. It's like asking us what it's going to be like to be grandparents. We don't know yet, because we're not at that point. We don't want to think about it yet. So getting them to get that little bit of headspace around it, and I have no idea what they're working for.
I think a really interesting angle to sort of remember is, as adults, we actually end up choosing to do things we choose to do. And so within a subject, like you've mentioned somewhere, like if you give them the choice, they might always opt to do the easy stuff that they know they can do. And with your flag system of the red, orange and green, which I think some of the schools already have got in place, which I think is great to be able to write down, I haven't got this yet, I'm nearly there and I've got it. But what I wonder is, how do we address the box that they haven't got? If they're revising a subject and there's a topic within it that they just don't get, and they put that in a box to say, well, I didn't get that. If we keep revisiting it and they still don't get it, it's almost like, how are they going to feel pushed to go to the box it's almost like, that's the box I don't like. How do we make them go there?
The key thing, and the thing that is really important to make sure your kids get, is that if they don't understand something, it's not that they're stupid, because that's usually where they go. Like, I'm stupid, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. It's that it hasn't been explained in the right way for them. So I always used to explain it like a jigsaw puzzle piece. If I'm trying to put a jigsaw puzzle piece into your head, that little bit of knowledge, but I'm trying to put it in upside down, it's not going to work. It's my job as the teacher to try some different ways until it fits. And so with topics that the kids don't get, the way to do it is to find someone different to explain it to you. So if they've been watching something on Corbett Maths to try and understand trigonometry and it's not making sense to them yet, try a different online tutorial thing. Ask a teacher, ask a mate who gets it. Keep going until you find someone that explains it in the way that works for you, because that's what it is. It's not been explained in the right way for you yet. So try as many different things as you can think of. Works for grown-ups too. It does make a difference.
Try that. Would you suggest that they try that soon into knowing that they didn't get it? Or would you say leave it for a bit and come back to it later?
Bit of both. It depends on the thing. If it's something that they've got a bit of a block over and they're just feeling a bit, it's more about how they feel about it. If it's feeling like something really stressful, give it a little break, come back to it in a week's time and try it in a different way. If it's just, no, I watched that and it still doesn't make any sense and I'm still in my maths revision block, I'll try a different one. Then trying it in different ways. Sometimes it takes a few different ways of explaining it for it to all kind of come together in your head and go, ooh, yeah, I get that now. So it's more to do with their attitude towards it than anything else. Because if it's
gauging where they are with that one particular, like take it almost one by one and see, is this one that you can go, let's find out about that. Because I did actually, another one of your great tips about post-it notes and the language, again, because I did French and he does German, not really many areas that we've got the same, the language is just completely different. It's not even slightly similar. So I was suggesting that he put some post-it notes on words around the house, just because then it'll just maybe go through. How much that'll end up being used, the GCSEs, could be a question mark, but I did like that a lot.
Did you not get a choice in the languages? Because you have a degree in French, right?
I do. And I chose French. I wanted to do French. I had a choice of Latin, I think. Spanish wasn't an option. It was German, French, or Latin. I think they were. Oh, Russian. Can you believe it? So I went for French and I did enjoy it. And then I went to live in France and I worked in France after I studied there. So I did actually, at one point, I thought I was going to end up living in France. I liked it so much. So I'm a huge advocate of learning languages. I know I've seen how well it does work when you didn't think you were going to need a language in your life, and how much it just opens up this avenue. I've got a really clever friend, Dave, who took like 4 languages. I mean, he did Italian, Spanish, French, and he did do Russian. And he now works very high up in the government in Russia. I don't want to use the word spy, but but we all joke about the fact that, you know, he was one of those people that because he had all these languages, so many companies just wanted to snap him up, because it was like, how many people do you know speak 4 languages? So I am a big believer in like what languages can do.
It's got to be helpful in your profession as well. If you've been learning different languages, it's got to help with accents and things too, I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. And just understanding language and words and different ways of expressing it. Sometimes I remember I have actually done a couple of commercials in French, funnily enough, years ago, and that obviously helped speaking the language a little bit. But I do think that as an expression, as a person who uses expression for a living, just being able to have a sort of window into other people's languages just gives you isms, and you can steal things from different cultures and languages all the time. So yeah, no, I think it's a big helping tool for me.
Awesome. I'm really glad that they've announced that they're going to stick with the broad and balanced curriculum and not try and narrow people down into just English and maths GCSEs to catch up, because I think it'd be such a shame to miss out on all the arts subjects and the languages and the humanities and things, because I think it's really important for kids to be grounded.
Yeah, it really is. There's an amazing, I'm sure you've watched it, the TED Talks with Ken Robinson. There's so many of them, but the most famous one he does, where he says, you know, schools are killing creativity to a certain extent because the hierarchy is still the Industrial Revolution's version of where the pecking order of learning subjects are. And like, how would you ever become Banksy if you went to a normal school? You know, how do you discover these amazing skills? Ballerinas, graphic designers, rappers, you know, so many new jobs that are available that people aren't getting taught at school because it's not part of any curriculum. You know, I wouldn't know, apart from drama being where dramatists like actors go, I wouldn't know where you would put somebody who's an aspiring rapper, for example, in a which class he would benefit in most. So yeah, I do think that the creative arts, I'm so glad that they haven't been downsized any further, because they already get quite a hard time, don't they?
They do, and it's sad to watch, because the arts were a big part of my school existence. I did lots and lots of dance when I was a teenager, and I now run a pop choir as well. So I love that stuff, and it's the stuff that lights me up. And so much of the artsy stuff I use in business. Now I'm running a business rather than teaching. All of the social media marketing stuff, you have to create all the graphics and things and then put all the words together, which isn't just about the English. There's lots of the artsy drama persuading people stuff that comes into it. And that's the sort of thing that a lot of people are doing now, is setting up businesses, and those transferable skills are the sorts of things that I try and get kids to think about when they're trying to figure out, what could I do with my life? Am I a person who's really great at seeing other people's kind of feelings and mediating, or fixing the problem and cheering people up, or whatever? Those soft skills are just as important as, in fact, possibly more so. I'm going to say
probably more important, and those, so as we call them, soft skills. And even if you're not as creative, I mean, I know people tend to go in two camps, like, are you creative or you're not creative? And I think there's a really missing grey zone, which are those kids who are not as creatively brilliant as some. You know, they're not musically exceptional, or they're not gifted as public speakers, so to speak. But there are those people. Like, I often make Noah watch Dragon's Den with me, because I think it's a great idea to sit and to stand and to try and tell people about this idea that you've got. It's a bit wacky, and it's a bit, and there's creativity in that. You know, The Apprentice, the show The Apprentice, that's about business people, but it's like a creative way of going, what would you do if you could invent any chocolate box, and making kids find extra soft skill, creative sides of themselves. So yeah, no, I do think that. I haven't been to school for a long time, but from what I hear, I know that we're going more towards that. But it seems to be slightly still classed as a luxury, or in some of the better schools, they tend to use the downtime to do creative, productive stuff. And I suppose I hope in years to come that the next generations can balance out how important both are.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get back on the GCSE track, because otherwise we could vent about schools forever. What are you most looking forward to in the next year in terms of school and stuff? Is it that point where the last exam is done? Is it results day?
No, I think it is more to do with getting that, getting the exam timetable and working towards it. I feel like we need the goal now to sort of work towards, and I know that's it's going to be a far stretch because people don't know with the coronavirus what's going to happen with next year's GCSEs, but we'd like to think that we can fast forward to a point where we will have from January onwards some kind of plan. And I think if I can, this is what I'm hoping, like don't quote me on it, if I can try and help Noah to do these 20-minute slots of catching up on everything he couldn't do in year 10, that maybe he can just flick through, like you say, like with a box of flashcards, just something to bring him up to speed. Then when we start year 11, if he's accustomed to doing it, we might be able to just continue. One interesting thing is because Noah lives between two homes, so he does the weekends with his dad and he does the weeks with me, and I need to see if I can extend it into working there as well, or whether we make that the weekend and it is a Monday to Friday thing. But what I'm looking forward to personally, I suppose from a parent's point of view, is how confident he feels going into the exams. I think that's what I need. I know that when he is feeling good about something, it does reap rewards. So it's maybe about building up the confidence to say, I'm sure I could ask the school for past papers. I don't know, are parents allowed to ask for stuff like that?
It's all online. You can download them all. You can't get the year before usually, because they're the ones they use for mocks. But anything before that, just if it's AQA geography past papers, click.
Oh really? Well, maybe I think. Oh right. Well, I'm sure I wouldn't be able to mark them, but I do feel like I know how important GCSE year was as a child for myself, because it's the first time we really got tested as adults, and I know they're not as hard as the A levels, but I also know that they are a massive platform to suggest, are you average, are you below average, are you above average? And I suppose every parent is hoping that their kids will come up at least average, if not above. So for me, I think I'm putting the results right to the back of the queue, and I think what we need in our heads is like the goal of the dates of when we're going to be doing which exams, because then I suppose the longer run up you get, and I suppose that's what your book is trying to talk about, trying to stay on track is so hard, isn't it? You start off with best endeavours and everyone's like, yeah. And if you don't know where you're aiming towards, apart from a general month, it could be hard. But I tell you what I think might work. I say this quietly so he doesn't hear, is the kids have got this thing, I'm sure lots of people will know what I'm talking about, streaks on their Snapchat and on and if I can incorporate some of those fun elements of streaks into learning, then there's a kind of superstition that they start breeding, and it's like, don't lose your streaks, even if you just do 5 minutes, even if you do 10 minutes. So I think I'll try and put a bit of some of that stuff you talk about. But yeah, no, I think for me, I think I'm a bit apprehensive about the actual exam days, because I know, again, I remember the feeling driving, my dad driving me into school for part 1 maths GCSE or whatever, and just dreading. It was just I wasn't as academic as I could have been, didn't really enjoy learning. I wasn't the best student. I was a very average student. So my experience of being 15-year-old taking GCSEs wasn't great. So I'd like to think he might get a better version. Again, like you say, each kid is different. So
it's a true story, yeah. So yeah, we've got lots to look forward to in the next year.
yeah.
I think,
and there'll be some days when we have 2 exams. There'll be some days when there's 2 exams in one day, and sometimes that's often easier than going into school just for 1 exam and then leaving.
Yeah. I nearly missed my last exam. It was English literature. I was convinced it was in the afternoon. Got a phone call at about 9:10. Everyone else was out. Answered the phone. It was school. Like, where are you? What?
I had exactly the same situation with computer studies. I remember literally freaking out and thinking, I thought it was in the afternoon. And getting whisked in my dad's car and speed driven. And I think I joined.
Mum and Dad weren't home. I had to get a neighbour to drive me to school. A friend's mum who lived down the road drove me into school. I got there. I was in such a tiz that they wouldn't let me start for about 10 minutes till I'd calmed down.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how I've never remembered that story until you just mentioned it? The fear, the panic that I suppose GCSEs create, because it's talked about so much. I think if it could just be felt like it was just another day at school, that would be brilliant. But I suppose, like you say, with some of the methods that you've talked about just preparing and planning, there is. I have actually said for years, I sound like such a knowing mum when I say this to Noah, but fail to prepare to fail. It's been it's really helped me in my real life. I know full well if I go into a television job without prepping the script on a level where I could answer any question anyone asked me about that character, there's just nothing better than feeling like, yeah, you can ask me anything because I know, that, rather than I didn't read it, please don't ask me anything. So I've seen the pitfalls of not preparing well enough. It's just really hard as a parent to try and transfer that to a child.
Yeah, because it's how does it apply to everything? I mean, I've done all the research. I know why they procrastinate, and I know how to help them stop procrastinating. I know why they all want to just read their notes and why that isn't the best way. But I also know that when parents know, it makes a massive difference. Hence the book, because 5 minutes at parents' evening isn't going to cut it. And realistically, schools can't manage much more than that. There isn't the time, there isn't the funding. So I figured I'd put the power back into parents' hands a little bit.
Yeah. But I have to say, from a parent's point of view, if somebody asked me to learn 7 scripts simultaneously, it would be hard. I focus on one subject, and I think most of us working parents focus on one job rather than 7. And I do think sometimes, God, I don't know how we did 7 or 9 subjects, spinning simultaneously and trying to know all of it. So when I hear about kids who get 9 ace double stars or 9 nines or that, I just think, who are you? Who are those kids that can literally maintain, understand, hold, and then repeat all that information? It's quite a massive. It's a big test, isn't it? Even A-level is 3, whereas for GCSEs, I think, trying to, again, I think you mentioned it in one of your books about, in one of your chapters about, obviously some subjects will be easier for the kids than others, and you only find out through GCSEs which ones you do. You thought you liked all of them, and now you're realizing, I don't really like biology. I wish I wasn't doing it, but it's you've got to still learn it all.
Yeah, I loved history, and then I had to write essays about it, and I wasn't such a fan then. Ditto for psychology. Not so great at essays, it turns out. I'm either too concise or I waffle too much. There is no middle ground. Oh, right. Well, I'm very conscious I've taken up lots of your time, and
it was very interesting. I'm really grateful that I got a chance to read a book like this, because the truth is, I probably wouldn't have thought to buy a book for parents to to help them. I'd have been looking more for what can help the kids, what can help the kids. But what I found really really fascinating was just how much we can know beforehand to help. So I'll be passing this on to the schools, to my mum's groups. I'll be asking all the, I suppose because I'm in the year that this applies to, quite timely, I will try and encourage people to read it, because it's been such an eye-opener, and it's been so helpful to just know. I mean, I'm sharing a lot of these tools with Scott. I'm reading them out to him, going, "Oh, guess what? Have you ever heard of the 3 Bs? Have you ever heard?" Yeah, and it's good to be able to pass on and to understand. I mean, you explained to me what the grading system meant. Again, we didn't do 1s to 9s when we were at school, so that was really helpful. Just loads of, and you've written it in bite-sized chunks itself. So again, you can pick it up, read a bit. And I think it's been a really helpful way of helping adults with GCSE kids.
Well, thank you so much.
That's
It has been a delight.